what if your business is about cake, but seriously isn't about cake? This is Krista and welcome back to another episode of Womenpreneur Asia, the podcast that celebrates Asian women entrepreneurs across Asia and tells the real stories behind their journeys. As always, this episode is sponsored by Redbox Studio. Today we're diving into the story that blends heart, craft, and social impact. I had such a heartwarming conversation with Karen Chu, founder of The Good Cake Hong Kong, a social enterprise in Hong Kong that bakes beautiful cakes while addressing food insecurity among elderly communities. Karen shares how a personal family-centered motivation grew into a cafe-worthy bake and a broader mission to feed those who are most in need. She's candid about the challenges, rising ingredient costs, the realities of growing a tiny team, and the nerves around marketing. But she also reveals the resilience, honesty, and love that keeps her going. If you've ever wrestled with turning passion into purpose, this episode is for you. Remember to listen, subscribe, and share with someone who'll be inspired by a kitchen that feeds more than just the stomach. Now onwards to Karen's cake story. Hi Karen, welcome to Womenpreneur Asia.
Hi Krista, so lovely to be here.
So Karen, most women that I talk to on my podcast usually have very chill weekends. But your weekends are not really that chill. And I know that because of the business you're in. So could you let us know a little bit about who you are and what business you're in?
Sure. So I'm Karen, and I am the owner and founder of The Good Cake Hong Kong. We are a social enterprise that does good. So we are focused on the well-being of elderly in the city with a special focus on several areas actually. So we want to address food insecurity in Hong Kong, and we want to really extend our hand to elderly living in poverty here.
And you do that by baking amazing looking cakes.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so a part of our proceeds goes to buying rice for, the community, and we work with partners to send them, rice to make sure that they don't go hungry at night. Yeah.
Okay, so for every woman that I've had on the podcast, a lot of times women start businesses because of something in their heart. In your case, what was that? That's something that was so deeply personal, so deeply close to your heart that you had to start a business.
Yeah, I would like to wind the clock and tell you about where it all started from. I was born in Hong Kong, and, like any other family, both my parents were working adults, right? So my grandparents took on the challenge of taking care of me, while I was a little kid. And I think that it's really through them that I felt, and now, of course, now that I'm an adult, I can say that, that it's unconditional love. So it's in their presence that I always felt very free, and I could be myself, and I know that I could do no wrong. I know it sounds like I'm really spoiled, but it's more like, oh, hey, what is so wrong about, doodling on the wall when it can be erased? Can we look at what you drew and talk about it? And then, okay, let's clean it up after, so it wasn't so much no consequence, but it's more like, oh, what was this about? And then can we do something about it? So that's the kind of environment I grew up in with my grandparents. So then we did move away when I was a child to Singapore, right? So I grew up in Singapore, I studied overseas, but I think that there's always been that search for that kind of freedom and acceptance of who I am truly. And because my grandparents gave me that, I have always been very curious about other grandparents and how they live and what they do within the confines of their home, say, right? So with these two, I decided to volunteer one year when I had a break off of work. I took a year off work. I volunteered with, say, extremely wealthy elderly in Hong Kong, where they just wanted someone to chat with in their very nice and beautiful assisted living communities. And also in Hong Kong, I visited what we call cage homes, very sadly. Yeah, they're very, very small and tiny, 2 by 6 feet spaces where, you know, that older person will pay Hong Kong dollars $2,000 to $4,000 sometimes, and all of his belongings will be within that little space, right? I visited those spaces with the social worker. I saw bed bugs. I saw definitely, the shelves were not empty per se, because that's all the space he has. He had a lot of clutter, right? But there was very little food always. There was always cup noodles, and he or she might have a rice cooker. So the rice cooker became very prominent to me because it just kept recurring, like, oh, this cage home would have it, that subdivided home would have it, you know, another welfare unit might have it, right? And they would tell me that they cooked all of their meals within that rice cooker once a day to save on electricity, and just keep it there to keep it fresh perhaps, but I don't even want to say that because they don't own a refrigerator, right?
That's sad, right? You have a rice cooker, which is very iconic in Asian homes, but at the same time not to have refrigerators, so you can't store fresh food and vegetables to cook with. I think that's quite sad.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's a very long answer to the question, and I was very influenced by my grandparents' love for me and letting me be creative, right? I also in turn became curious about grandparents in different parts of Hong Kong when I came back. And then I witnessed this for myself, right? The realities of a lot of grandparents all over Hong Kong that live in this way. And in that same year, I decided to learn baking because it kept costs lower. You know, I didn't have to like go, you know, search out horse riding lessons or something like that. I could buy flour and sugar and do testing at home, right? Because I wasn't working that year. So I did, and I baked nonstop that year. Almost every day. I burnt a lot of stuff. I burnt breads. I didn't understand, you know, letting something rise means leaving it on a counter for 2 or 3 hours and not 15 minutes. I'm like, how come it's not rising? I'm referring to bread. Right? And then I burnt a lot of meringues and what have you. So, well, at the end of that one year, a close friend of mine said, Karen, can you bake for my wedding? She didn't challenge me to a wedding cake, but it's just cupcakes, thankfully. But it was, you know, still like, oh, hey, I was only doing this for a year. And so between learning about these grandparents in Hong Kong and, hey, finding out that my cakes look decent enough, right, I decided to...
At the wedding, right? At the wedding?
Yes, right? Yeah. No less. Yeah, so I decided that I would take the plunge and try these two things out and put them together and call it the good cake. Yeah, where we do good and hopefully we taste good.
I've seen your cakes. They're very elegant. They're not overly decorated and very classic with all the beautiful flowers and, you know, lovely colors and all that. So I think, yeah, they're perfect for anything. It doesn't have to be a wedding. It could be just someone's birthday. And this is where I thought that, you know, how wonderful that you took a gap year from work and decided to launch yourself into baking because it's a cheaper hobby than horse riding.
Oh, absolutely.
And you didn't have to feed the horse, right? You could feed yourself with a cake.
I cannot afford a horse. No way.
But you could feed yourself with what you baked, right? Which is actually a good thing to have, right?
Not initially, they were quite terrible, but yeah.
But from there, you came up with the concept of the good cake, putting two things together that very close to your heart. So I thought it was really brilliant. I mean, before you came along, Karen of the good cake, were there any other people in a similar space doing similar things?
Oh, absolutely. In Hong Kong, there are bakeries where a part of their proceeds goes to supporting people who have faced mental illnesses but now are in a recovery. So they may employ them, or a part of their funding goes back to the charities that support, you know, these organizations. So the concept is definitely not new, right? This was some 8 years ago now. I'm not sure if I even understood the meaning of social enterprise back then, right? Yeah, I was like, oh, I know what it means, but do I have to be officially registered and recognized by some governing body before I can call myself that? right? So it's a lot of finding out about that. But in any case, yeah, absolutely. This idea of doing good with your business, a part of it anyway, definitely dedicated to doing this, not new. So I don't want to claim originality.
And to date, you started this in 2019, right? To date, how many tons of rice? I don't know how many you call it, packets, tons?
Tons,
of rice have you given?
Yeah, 5.2 tons of rice. Yeah,
that's a lot.
We try to put that into perspective too. If we calculate, like, say, conservatively, our bowl of rice per meal, right? That's about 80,000 meals to the elderly community in Hong Kong.
That's wonderful. You fed, at least if you think of like one person eating one bowl of rice, at least it's like 80,000 people have eaten that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So
I hope to do more still.
So tell me, how does it work? So when people order a cake from you, they already know that part of the proceeds will go towards buying rice, or what? How does that happen?
I think that most of our customers are aware that we do good. So a part of our proceeds goes to buying rice for the elderly community. So what happens is that because we're so small, it's mainly me, and I have a few retired aunties who come and help us, right? So in our bakery, I hire 3 retirees where they may not live in financial difficulty themselves, but now they want to feel re-engaged in with work, right? Because they're retired and they get to support their peers, right, in their own way. And my very trusted driver is also a retiree, so I do that in my small little team. And then, yes, every single order, a part of the proceeds is set aside to like a rice fund. And then at the end of every quarter or so, we do call up our very, very, again, wonderful charity partners. And we say, hey, we're ready to send you, 500 kilograms of rice. And then it goes there. And then we repack them, and it is being distributed to the elderly in the community.
Are you also joining in the distribution of this rice?
Yeah, occasionally. With every donation, I try to go there, after, just to say hi to the, grandmas and grandpas, but they don't know who I don't wish to let them know, hey, there's no need for that either. But I just want to see, these are the very real, older adults that I am serving. And there was one such story, if I may share it, that I gave the pack of rice to this wonderful granny, and she said, I get to make rice tonight, 煮饭. She literally said that. I get to make rice tonight. So that it made me happy and so sad at the same time that this is happening, but still, I have to continue.
I mean, that to everyone who's listening, I think we take cooking rice for granted. Like we can just wash some rice, rinse it, put it in a rice cooker, and hey, there's a meal ready in 20 minutes. But for a lot of people, and I didn't know this until I spoke to you, Karen, honestly. Although I have, like I told you, I've been to Hong Kong, and I've also seen documentaries and short films about cage homes. But it never struck me that part of it would be food. I always thought, okay, it's just the space, right? Like you don't have enough space, so you're limited by this space. But I never kind of put 2 and 2 together. Like space means there's no fridge, there's no kitchen, so to speak. Then they just get to cook rice. So I thought that was a really powerful realization that I never thought that even cooking rice we take for granted.
You're so right, because I don't think that I understood this until I volunteered, right? And until I visited not just one, but many of these homes, right? That's obviously then very, very reflective of the systematic issues that are, but when I got to witness the individuals, right, the real people that are facing, that are within these statistics, right, that we read on reports, then you realize that the reality is so much harder than we can even begin to imagine. Because when you mention rice, a lot of these older adults have to water down their rice. So we're not really talking about literal a bowl of rice. It could be congee, so that the rice received lasts longer.
The rice goes a long way.
Right? Yeah. You know, and we don't think about these things, right? Because we are privileged people in our own way, right? So, and a lot of these older adults are vegetarians because meat is simply expensive, right? And like you mentioned, you know, how where do you keep a piece of meat if it's not in the refrigerator? So there are so many constraints. And the realities are just so complex and so much deeper than we realize. So therefore, when you have your bills to pay, say the cage home, which costs a couple of $1,000s, you have your medical bills. Yes, Hong Kong has subsidized medical subsidies from the government. Yes, we do. But there's certain medicines that are not, so that gentleman still has to foot the bill for whatever. There's utilities, there's transport. So what goes first, right? It's always food. Food is always the first sacrifice. So then in my head, in my very non-business savvy head, I just felt, hey, what's the most basic thing that I can send away that lasts the longest, that's close to all of our Asian hearts, especially in Hong Kong, which is rice. So yeah, that's why I chose rice. Yeah.
Yeah. And also rice signifies a lot of things in life for Asians, and that itself is quite meaningful, apart from the fact that it can keep long without refrigeration.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, for sure. In Hong Kong, when we see each other, it's a very classic greeting. We say "食咗飯未?" Literally says it doesn't translate to "have you had your lunch?" It says "have you had
your rice?"
Right?
Yes,
yeah,
rice.
Right. So it is very close to our hearts.
So that's why I think that it's such a wonderful way for you to put two and two together, like knowing what matters to you. And of course what matters to you comes from your childhood growing up with your grandparents who took care of you, and then you put these two together. But tell me that story. I want everyone listening to hear that story about cake, celebrating birthdays, which is also another part of the good cake, right? The good cake mission.
What happened was I started talking to various charity organizations that are out there really doing the groundwork. They're doing the visits. They are checking in on, the elderly on the fringe of the city, truly on the fringe in every sense of the word. And I got to meet this very cool social worker, and I say, hey, what can I do? Should I send you rice too? Or should I send you something else? Or, and he was like, hey, what if we sent them birthday cakes? And I said, oh yeah. Okay, like silly me, of course. I don't want to take credit for things I didn't come up with. And he said a lot of his grandparents live alone, right, because of their circumstances, and they haven't celebrated their birthdays in a very, very long time. Because celebrations are a luxury. Birthday cakes are a luxury. If you can't even afford rice, why would you buy anything else, right? Of course. So every month we did that in 2025. I would send a number of cakes to this very cool charity organization, and they would match volunteers with my cakes, and they would do their welfare checks on these elderly, and they would celebrate with them, spend half an hour or 45 minutes chatting, a real celebration where, physical cake is there, right? I was on one such visit, and this gentleman actually broke down. He's had a difficult life. He's been living on his own for a good decade now. And when you're alone, you come last again. It's so ironic, isn't it? You come last again, even though you're the only one in the picture now. So he never celebrated himself. And he was just so glad that we were there. And we took photos, he says that that photo was going to be his display photo on his phone. So, yeah, a lot of things that we do take for granted are not accessible to a lot more people than we realize.
Yeah, especially if they're living in financial difficulties, if they're older, they live alone, and they may not have anyone to celebrate with, or even maybe sometimes celebrations just feel frivolous, right? Like
right? Yeah. So I can only imagine how how tough the reality is for, right, these grandparents.
But it was such a good story that you told that I had to ask you to retell that, because I think we also take our birthdays and birthday celebrations for granted. As you say, all of us who are listening to this, who are able to listen to this, are privileged, right? We have rice at our disposal. Yes. We don't have to worry about saving electricity every time we turn on the rice cooker. We have birthdays to celebrate. We have cakes that we can choose and decide what to eat and what not to eat. And so I guess
you're right.
This realization never occurred to me until I spoke to you.
Yeah, it's just that we don't think about these things, right? It's just hard to imagine too. So I can only say how blessed we actually all are, right? We really are. Yeah. With choices. Yeah, it's a blessing.
Yeah. So when you said you started in 2019, where do you start baking? I'm sure it's at home.
Yeah. Yes, I did.
and after that, how did that transition to? Are you now at a commercial kitchen?
So 2019 was when I had my business registration. I really started baking in 2018 at home. So 2018 was a gap year that I had taken. So yes, I baked every day at home with my oven and did so many tests. So in Hong Kong, you have to operate out of a licensed kitchen in order to sell. And in order to be a part of a licensed kitchen, you have to have a business registration. I didn't understand any of that. It was so confusing. There was no go-to website, or maybe silly me, I don't know where to look for these information. That was, so I had to figure all of that out. So my first act of legalizing my business was to sign up for, of course, my business registration, which I paid a very expensive agent too, because it's my first time. Right? It's all business owners get gypped a little in the beginning. You pay for things that are so expensive that's not unnecessary. Then I joined a shared kitchen where chefs or curious people can have access to professional equipment, where you really work with huge ovens, and there are like 3 or 4 KitchenAids in the kitchen, and then from there I graduated, right, to now a kitchen where I still share with another chef, but now it's just me and that brand, where we have a lot more space, we have a lot more liberty to use the kitchen as we please, the hours, and I could bring people in. And so yes, I operate out of a licensed kitchen in Hong Kong.
Since you say you have more space, does it mean that you can bake at odd hours of the day?
Yes, because it's just me and the other brand. So absolutely, I can go there, in the middle of the night, or I try not to. Yeah, but yes, if there's an emergency baking session, yes, I can. I couldn't before. Yeah.
Okay. And what is your most busy period? I mean, if there is a busy period or a busy time or time where you just bake and bake and bake.
Christmas, definitely. Yeah, it's it's a season of giving, right? Truly. And I think that people tend to be a lot more relaxed at the end of the year, more generous at the end of the year. So when they see that the good cake does good too, can I do doubly well by gifting my friend and also contribute to the community? And so definitely busiest during Christmas, and I barely get any sleep every December. I kind of disappear from the face of the earth for a good 6 weeks, plus 2 weeks of recovery because I'm so tired. Yeah,
I can imagine. I mean, after that, would you even eat any cake? You're so sick and tired of cakes. The question I asked, because you're a baker, you'll be eating as tasting and doing all kinds of things in the kitchen. But does it put you off cake when you're not
I hear
making?
I hear you. Can I tell you the truth? I actually really enjoy my own cookies.
Okay, that's good. I mean, that's good. That's a good honest evaluation of your own cooking.
So I still eat I don't eat a slice of cake every, not like that, but because I take nibbles to taste or test, I'm like, oh, this is really good, well done, So I still enjoy that. I really do. Yeah, I still enjoy it.
Okay. What was marketing like for you? Like from the get-go? I mean, I know your friend ordered 100 cupcakes for the wedding. But what happened after that? Like, what was marketing like in terms of marketing the good cake?
Very chaotic. Very, very chaotic. I have a marketing background, but when I started, there were so many buckets to juggle, right? So I imagine myself standing on a plank on a ball, so I'm already trying to balance everything and holding 6 buckets at once, right? So I was learning how to bake, which was very confusing in itself, very frustrating because things are burning, the cookies are flat, right? Marketing was in my head, and being rather immature even 7-8 years ago, I felt, should I show the failures, right? Should I show the ugly parts? Because I want to be professional. I want the good cake to look nice so that people will support me. So what was that line and decision? And then so there were a lot of very pretentious, like, oh, let me pose it this way and that way, so that was how I started.
Like the perfect cake, right? Not the good cake, the perfect cake.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So then I started talking to my very good friend a lot, and he said, actually, part of your brand is literally people knowing that there's only one person behind this brand. Before I got to hire the retiree ladies recently, right? But really, truly, Karen is the chaos. I'm taking photos with my iPhone 14. It's like I don't have a professional camera, right? Like that's the brand too. So then I start to lean into it, and yeah, that's true. And I start to learn about algorithm and on Instagram, and learning about how much to pay for which ad, and again leaning into now in the past couple of years reels, right? Importance of videos. I cannot just hide behind a camera anymore, which I used to. I have to be front facing. I have to learn to pose, and so it's rather chaotic. I'm definitely still learning all the time, but I also learned that staying authentic made things a lot easier, right? Pretending to be someone I'm not. I am not as good at doing that. What I mean is, because we're so small, so staying Karen makes it easier for my operations. Yeah, that message comes across easier for me if that makes sense.
So does it mean that Karen now shows the cake failures, things that didn't turn out that well, or maybe like there are some days where, like you say, you're like super tired and you're like really drained? Does that come across too in your marketing now?
Yeah, so for sure. So some days, like, my cookies don't cookie. They come out flat. I'm like, they come out flat. And then, yes, I've posted that. And then, I was working one day and I didn't see my hair. And then when I saw my own reflection, I just looked so silly. And I did post a photo of that too. I didn't have makeup on. I just looked like a mad baker. And I did post that, right? And I just laughed and I said, I thought that I was so cool, walking around my bakery, but okay, this is how I look in reality. And I did post that too, Yeah, and I guess what I keep private is still perhaps I was open about my dad's death because I did have to go away for a couple of months that year, but I have kept my private life rather enclosed perhaps, but most of what is related to baking and the brand I've been open about. Yeah.
Is that a lesson in marketing in this?
I think that's what has worked for me, is to be honest and authentic. Yeah, because Karen is very synonymous with the good cake, so that has made things easier for me. Yeah. I hope that's a
I mean that's perfect because sometimes I think that these days people want to see who's behind the brand versus this super polished, perfect looking brand, that does everything perfectly or ends up showing the perfect parts of their business, whereas we know that businesses are run by human beings who have days when things are not 100%, some days it's only like 70-80%, right? You're running a 70-80% battery. Yeah,
for sure, right? And also my skills are not up to that, right? When you said that, they're really polished, a French beautiful pastry. I don't have that skill, so I really can't afford to pretend to be that either, because the cracks will show. Yeah.
Is there something that you wish you did earlier in terms of marketing? Like now looking back, there are so many years that you've had time to create your brand and think about your brand a little bit. And of course, your friend gave you some helpful advice about, making the brand Karen is good cake. Good cake is Karen. And anything that you wish you felt like, maybe I could have tried this or did this much earlier in my business.
I think that fear is a very real thing. The fear of looking silly is a very real thing to me. I struggle with that. I struggle with the fear of judgment. Maybe that's a better way to put it. Yeah. So putting yourself and putting the brand, creating something that's so visible on the internet was very scary too. As much as I was trying to do something for myself, it was also just so scary. That part of it was so scary. I don't have colleagues. I don't have a sounding board where I can go to every day and say, is this a good idea or is it silly? But I wish maybe then learning earlier would have been just being a lot more fearless from the get-go. Like, what's the big deal? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the big deal about looking silly or creating a cake that, yes, definitely flopped, which I have flopped many times. It's like, what would be the big deal? I wish I didn't care so much. And I wished, and if I failed more, then I can take those lessons and, okay, do something else. Keep pivoting, keep adjusting. Yeah.
But when did that fearlessness erupt?
I'm still fearful though. I'm still right? It wasn't until I was, I did get accepted into a fellowship. It's part of a foundation in Hong Kong called Resolve Foundation. They host a fellowship every single year. And in that fellowship, I was also matched with a mentor. So then that mentor said, what do you want to do though? He's like, do you want to grow the business or do you want to stay a baker? He said, because there was two distinct roles, even though they can happen at the same time. So he said, but if you want to stay a baker, of course you can hide behind the scenes, right? You can just take a photo and what have you. But if you want to grow the business and these things have to be done, then in order to do these things, you just have to do it afraid and go get it. Otherwise, you would just stay the same. So then like, okay. And then I just started, not think so much about things, right? And just went about doing everything. I was even afraid of, or rather hesitant about networking. Yeah.
How so, Karen?
I would be nervous before a networking session. Maybe that's a better way to put it. Yeah. Or whenever I attended an event, I don't know where the fear is or where it stems from, but I'll be nervous about things, right? So then I realized I cannot hide behind that fear forever or nervousness forever. So I just went about doing it, and then the more I did it, the more I realized, okay, it's not that scary. Right, it's really not that scary. Yeah.
And you were working in marketing before.
I know. Yeah, but maybe because this is my own, so I'm so much more careful with I think I overthink so much more. Yeah, so now all my ex-bosses realize that I just fling their money about. but I guess because this is mine, I'm just so much more scared. I guess it's like being afraid of telling your child something that's wrong that may affect him or her for a very long time. Maybe that's how it feels like. Yeah, but I think I've learned to be way less fearful than when I started. Yeah.
And have all the customers for the good cake come by word of mouth, or is it like through ads, or what? I know you mentioned Reels. Has that been helpful as well?
So yes, I focus a lot on Instagram. We cannot use TikTok in Hong Kong, so I focus a lot on Instagram because I feel like that's where the demographics of my audience are. I focus less on Facebook. Definitely through advertising has helped me reach the bulk of my audience. And then, yes, from then the word of mouth has definitely helped us gain a lot of the corporate clients that now trust us, like, you know, for Christmases and their employee celebration days and all that. So, yeah. But definitely Instagram has been my very good friend.
Yeah, so that's wonderful to hear. And I think cakes also belong on Instagram because, you know, people want to see what they're eating or what they're ordering.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's a very good space for me to show people what I'm up to.
But on Instagram, I also saw that you post a lot more videos about where you're going, what you're doing about in your day. You know, so I like those videos as well because I think that gives me, like you say, you know, like a behind the scenes of who Karen is rather than just her product, her cake that's been, you know, out there. People see the cake, but people want to know who made the cake, right? Who's the person behind the cake?
Yeah, I also talk about like my migraines, which I get a lot of, you know, and then I realized that a lot of girls and women get migraines, you know. We all struggle with the same thing. It's just that I happen to put my story on Instagram and people do relate too. When it comes to marketing, I realized that people relate to you when they realize that when you're human and you're real.
Yeah.
And right? And what makes you real and human is not look at how great I am at baking. You know, I literally failed my way there. You know, I literally say that, yeah, it's true. There are days that where my migraines are so bad, but an order is going out tomorrow. I have to work through it. And I have to remember to rip out my camera and say, yes, this is me having a migraine. You know, I have to do that too, yeah. Right? And the silliness of life, right? And then we connect, and thankfully my audience are connect with me that way too.
Have you had orders from outside of Hong Kong?
Oh, yes, yeah. I have. Singapore, Australia, Malaysia too, the UK, the States.
And how do you deliver to those people?
But it's for gifting it to their friends and loved ones in Hong Kong.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay. I was thinking people say like, if I'm in Malaysia, I say, hey Karen, I want to order your cake, but how are you going to deliver it to me? That's a difficult thing. So if you're listening to this and then you're in a country that's not Hong Kong and you want to buy something for your friends in Hong Kong, you can go through the Good Cake.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Our cookies have traveled overseas before for a wedding, and recently that same lady who bought 300 cookies for her wedding in Australia, I found out that she's having a baby, and her friends threw her a surprise baby shower with our cake. So that was, you know, really nice to find out.
Yeah, that would be so cool, right? To have them record a video and send it to you.
Yes. But no, I'm too shy to ask too. But
So in terms of marketing, were there any challenges? Were there any other challenges when you were starting out, when you were trying to grow the Good Cake?
I think that the ever-changing algorithm is very confusing. Yeah, on Instagram, because I'm very dependent on Instagram, right? It's very confusing. So first it was carousels, you know, post like 15 photos of the same cake. Oh no, then it's now reels, and then captions are great. Oh no, captions now are not great, you know, and then now my hashtags are limited to 5 per post, and they're not really that important anymore. Just when I thought I figured it out, you know, and not forgetting that I also have to bake, and I'm talking to people, I'm going for meetings, and so that's one thing. I think that another challenge is learning to do collabs. I'm not great at collabs, because I find maybe it's outside of my comfort zone. I don't want to, I think that, so that's something that I want to explore next year perhaps. Well, you see, I'm giving myself a 6 months runway, right? So, you know, something I need to do and learn to do collabs. Another challenge with marketing would be budget, right? We are very small. I don't have money for a big, nice photo shoot for Christmas, right, where we really do bulk our revenue for the year. That's another challenge. So I don't think that our challenges are unique, to tell you the truth. So I hope that what would help with making a difference would be to just stay resilient and just stay on the ball, you know, and just keep yourself updated and talk to people who are in the industry, and then you learn their tricks. Like, and I think it's also been important to talk to people who are open about their problems. I have met very great friends along the way, and when I do ask a question, they don't safeguard or keep. They really share, this is actually the secret, okay, and then we all move forward. Yeah.
That is true. I mean, but what about the rising prices or rising costs of ingredients for your cakes?
Yeah. I face that every single year. That's a very real thing.
It doesn't come down, does it? The prices just go up.
Yeah. And we're affected by the wildest, they're not wild, but most factors that are so far away from where I am and what I do, right? So fuel prices.
Yes. I think it affects everyone all across the world.
Yes. Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. So, and then say if Japan has a egg issue, which they did a couple of years back, right? Because of virus or diseases within a community, then I have to search for a new
egg supplier.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then the prices go up too. But these things I don't get to talk about. And I don't get to increase my prices because the price of eggs have gone up for that 3 months, right? So I bear these things. Butter is very expensive. We use a very expensive French butter. Yeah. So it comes from a very far away land, Paris, right? And shipping to home. So yes. Yes, rising price. And so how do I deal with it? I try hard not to increase our prices, to tell you the truth, because if it almost feels ridiculous to have a price revision increase every year. Yeah, right? How do I justify? Because a lot of my customers have been with us for 7 years. So I have increased my price for our cookies just only once in the past 7 years. Yeah, we bear it though. Yeah.
But it's tough though. Because inflation, right, happens like every single year, and we know that it never comes down. I mean, whatever prices of food, we know it never comes down. Never, ever.
No. And I try to pay my retired bakeries and logistics partner fair wages too. Yeah. So, right. So then, do we make a lot of money? Am I gonna, become the next cake queen? I really don't think so. Yeah. But if there's one next lesson is I want to learn to grow the business, which is where I talk to my mentor a lot, right? Where are my bottlenecks? Is Karen the biggest bottleneck in the business, which I admit that I am, and it's not easy to say that I am. So who do I bring in to help me, or right, what kind of investors am I looking for? What kind of partners am I looking for? Am I looking for a BD superstar? And if I have that, how do I manage the operations? Because now it's been very small. How do I scale that? I don't know how to scale that. So that's what I'm learning to do at the moment.
So those are the next phase challenges.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And, with increased size, we have more control over things like rising prices. Hopefully we're ordering way much more. We have more control, and of course then we can expand our rice, sending away more rice. We can expand our mini programs now and impact more elderly. That's one thing. I also think of my business as a mouthpiece for the grandparents all over Hong Kong, and I say that because it sounds like a lot of rice, 5.2 tons and 80,000 meals. But in Hong Kong, there are 580,000 older adults or elderly living in poverty, right? And if, let's say, even half of them go hungry at night, that's 300,000 of them. Every night, though, even with 7 years of work, I've only sent away 80,000 meals. So I hope that the good cake is also a good advocate for these grandparents and say that this is a real issue, a real crisis, if I even may use that word, in Hong Kong. And it doesn't only happen in Hong Kong. It happens in all our cities, right? All our favorite travel destinations, Korea, Japan, New York, Singapore, Malaysia. These are real issues that are very invisible too. until we, like today, we shed light.
Yeah, until we talk about it, right?
Right? Yeah. So.
So you will never think that this is an issue because it's always invisible.
Yes.
No one's going to come to you and say, "Hey, I'm hungry. I don't have rice in my kitchen. I can't cook tonight." Right? So
exactly.
we don't have that. It doesn't stare us in the face, and therefore we don't see it as a problem. But so if Karen and the Good Cake grows bigger, it also means that you get to serve more elderly.
For sure. Yeah. But you see, the thing is, this is very understandable. We're such a quick paced world. We can only condense pieces of information into an article, into statistics, right? It's very, very understandable. I'm afraid, that's the way the world is. So I try to do my tiny part. Yeah.
But I think it's a good way for people to start to look into the problem. It's systemic, of course, but there are also so many ways that people can talk about an issue. And if they talk about an issue through the cake that they're eating, on the cake that's in front of them, like this is a cake versus another cake. So that's small conversations happening, which I believe that's where it really hits people the most, right? Because like you say, nothing is as basic as food.
Right, so yeah.
And people going hungry right at night and not having a full bowl of rice to eat. Okay, so what's in the future? I know you talked a little bit about that, you hinted about that. So is that in the future for Karen? The collabs, the growing, the next phase? What's the immediate next thing for Karen?
Immediate. I need some sleep. We've had a long stretch actually since Mother's Day, and then last week we had a number of corporate orders, so because it's such a small team, so what's next? I really want to learn how to grow my team in such a way that we are more efficient, and where rest is not a luxury, where we can be rested and go to work and be present, right? Instead of saying I have 4 more hours of baking to go, how can I just get through this and and rest for 5 hours and do it again, so operations wise, because we're so small, but you see, that's the thing about learning. So I have really busy days, right, where my bakery aunties will come in and they're more than happy to, and then I have slower days. So how can I learn to grow the sales such that it's so much more consistent, that we can have a roster, we can have a schedule where we're not coming in randomly now, where I'm not the only constant in the company. So that's my next stage, and very immediate.
Okay, but interesting, because it's always interesting to know that you come to a stage where you are excited at the next phase. And there's like a huge horizon of possibility for you. It's just that which path or which route you're going to take, right, just to get there, because there's so many ways people could tell you, but only you will know what's right for you at this stage.
But being an overthinker, I also wonder what's right. I wonder if the other entrepreneurs you interview too also face this uncertainty, like, yes, exactly, because there's choice A to F. That I face a lot of paralysis. And these are just very real things that I think about every day, and I think that I want to be open about the struggles that I face as a solopreneur, if I may, that it's not just all sprinkles and sparkles. I have a lot of self-doubt. If I take A, but what if B is better? Can I combine D and E? Can I, these are just real thoughts that go through my head a lot.
I think it happens to a lot of us who are in entrepreneurship because of choices, right? When it was only one choice, there's no choice, basically there's no choice, it's easier to take that path because you can tell yourself there's no choice, I need to do this. But when you have many choices, it's harder because you're always thinking, what if choice number 2 was better than choice number 1?
Yes.
And then what if I put money in choice number 1 and 1 did not turn out the way choice number 2 would have turned out? Exactly, just kind of crazy things. It's
and
hard.
choices get expensive, isn't it? Yeah, choices.
Yeah. Because you have to invest time and energy and money and you know, figuring out if you're going to do this, you'll be doing this for the next 6 months at least. You can't just do this for 1 week and just, you know, give up, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's a good, I would say it's a dilemma that most of us face. But I also believe that at the end of the day, once we make a decision, and I think probably you have realized it too, right? The more you make a decision, everything kind of falls to the wayside. It's like, okay, the rest don't matter.
Yeah, I don't want to deter anybody from starting their own business. It's just these are the things that I struggle with, you know. But so I try to talk to a lot of people about, like, who are better than me. I really try to seek their advice and how have you done it? How have you faced?
In this case, I must introduce you to someone I know in Hong Kong.
Yes.
One of my podcast guests, she had this dilemma too. She was thinking to herself, I'm not going to grow my team. I'm going to keep it the way it is. And then a year later, she told me she had doubled her team.
Oh my. Yeah.
So I was like, I thought you said you didn't want. She said, but you know, circumstances, things change. So I would introduce you to her, and both of you can have fun because she's in the party business.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Like she makes stuff for people to have parties with, like hats and all this party stuff. Okay, great. Now I know who I can connect you to. Okay, great.
Yes, please.
So before we end, where can people find the Good Cake and how can they connect with you?
Yes, please. So we're at the Good Cake HK. That's our Instagram handle. And then anybody can reach me through the DMs or, you know, on Instagram. And we're on thegoodcake.org. That's our website. You know, you can check our cakes out or say hi to me via the contact form. If I'm slow to reply, it's only because I'm baking. I'm not snubbing anybody.
Okay. Any final words of advice for anyone who's wanting to jump into a business like yours, which is food and, you know, food and baking or just generally entrepreneurship?
Yes. So before, you know, we had this podcast, you asked me a really great question. You asked me what my favorite quote was. And I did sit down to think about it a lot. And I think that, I know I can't swear on this podcast.
You can. I give you permission to swear.
Oh dear. Okay, I will not. But, you know, I think that it's fly, right? It is fly, screw them all, and fly. Yeah.
I saw that. You're like, wow, this is very interesting.
I keep that inside my head a lot because what are we so afraid of? And I keep going back to that because that's something I personally think about a lot and struggle with. So what are we so afraid of, and what could really be the worst that can happen?
That's a great one to end this interview with. So thank you, Karen. I love how you've turned your love for your grandparents into something that's bigger than just your grandparents, bigger than you know your personal love for your grandparents, but something into much bigger, something that also concerns the society and the community in Hong Kong that was kind of invisible, I guess, until you know these issues came to the forefront because of the Good Cake.
Oh, thank you for saying that. Yeah, I really appreciate the time and letting me have this stage today, you know, that I get to share my whys and share my fears, and hopefully with my quote, you know, anybody who's waiting to plunge or waiting to make a decision will fly. All women should fly, and there's no need to hold ourselves back. And if something's holding us back, screw them. You know?
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
What a conversation, right? Karen reminds us that big impact often starts with small, meaningful acts, like turning a portion of every cake sale into rice for someone who can't afford a meal. Her honesty about fear, pivoting, and learning from mentors feels incredibly relatable for women building something with limited resources but with a big heart. If you love this episode and know of someone who could benefit from this honest conversation, do share this episode. Plus, I'd love for you to subscribe to our Womenpreneur Asia email list for more practical inspiration and behind-the-scenes updates. This is Krista Gun, and I will see you next Friday for more conversations with women entrepreneurs across Asia.